Broadcasting live to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and so much more. This is Go Live with Restream from your host, Ian Anderson Gray, the show that helps you expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video.
Hello, it's Ian Anderson Gray here. This is the Go Live with Restream show. Today we're going to be talking about how to build an influencer marketing channel for your brand. And this is going to be whether you are a brand looking to work with influencers or if you are an influencer wanting to work with a brand. And I've got somebody very special to come in and help us with this, which I'll be bringing her in very shortly, is Anya Razina from Restream. So that's going to be really, really awesome. Looking forward to that. But yeah, just to let you know what this show is all about. This is all about how you can level up your impact using multi-streaming video, how you can grow your audience. And as always, today I'm using Restream to broadcast the show. We are broadcasting to a plethora of different channels, including Periscope, LinkedIn, Twitch, Mixcloud, YouTube, Facebook. A lot. I'd have to write them down because there are so many. In fact, there's DLive as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching the replay, as I put in the comments before, just put hashtag replay in the comments and let me know where in the world you are watching from. You can see some fabulous people watching live. And if you've got any questions for myself or for Anya, then do put that in the comments. But first of all, it is time just to talk a little bit about Restream. Restream is what powers this show. And if you want to find out a little bit more about Restream, what you need to do is go to iag.me/Restream. Restream is basically, it's the complete multi-streaming suite for entrepreneurs. It's really awesome. It allows you to broadcast to over 30 different destinations all at the same time. You can be fancy and use a third-party tool like OBS Studio or Ecamm. Or, if you're smart, you can broadcast directly from the browser, which is what we're using today. You can use Restream Studio. You can have up to 9 guests on your show. You can highlight comments and put graphics and things like that on. All of this is great. It allows you to multiply your views and reach a wider audience. All of that's all very well and good, though. If you can't interact with your audience and you can't see the comments, then that's a bit of a problem. One of the powers of live video is that you can interact with your audience. With Restream, you can do that. They have a chat facility. This is built into the studio. It also allows you to highlight comments on the screen and interact with those people, which is so, so powerful. Loads of other tools as well. You can schedule your pre-recorded videos live using the scheduler. And finally, don't forget the analytics part of Restream. This might not sound sexy, but it is so, so important. This allows you to see how powerful it's a powerful tool that allows you to see how many people are engaging with your live stream. So you can see which points in your live stream did you have the most and which bits you didn't. And you can learn from that experience. So definitely check out Restream. All you need to do is go to iag.me/Restream. Okay, I think it's time to bring in Anya. Let's see if the technology is going to work. Of course it is. Anya, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
It's awesome. Well, I was looking forward to having you on the show. This is episode 9, so it's taken us until episode 9 to have you on the show. How's that happened?
I think it's kind of a natural progression of things. You had a lot of great guests, and I was just listening to your presentation right now and thinking, wow, this is good. This is good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We all need to learn.
Well, it's great to have you on. I'm really interested in this topic, and this is the whole area of influencer marketing. And so we're going to be looking at it from 2 points of view. So if you're watching this and you're an influencer or you want to be an influencer, we're going to be looking at that. But we're also going to be looking at it from a brand's point of view. And I'm sure you would agree with this. It's important to look from both sides, really, because I think we need to have a bit of empathy here. But I just we've got some fabulous people watching live, and we've got Family Life Quote watching on YouTube from Jacksonville, Florida. One of these days I will go to Florida. I would love that. So great to see you. Hope you're doing well. We've got let's see if I can get The Real Legend of Gaming watching on YouTube. We've got I can't read that. Lofi Wakating watching on Facebook in New York. We have Autumn Fall. We have got a very American audience there. I'm very impressed. Autumn Fall from Chicago. Joshua from watching live from South Dakota in the US as well. And we have Humayun Khan from Pakistan. We are a worldwide audience. Are you impressed, Anya?
That's awesome. Wow. Welcome, everybody. That's great to see such a wide geography.
It is. It's great. It was great, and we've got lots of hellos to you, which is awesome. So we'll keep the. I can see some questions coming through. Keep the questions coming, whether they are to do with Restream, without to do with multi-streaming, or what we're going to be focusing on today is about influencer marketing. So do keep those comments coming. I'm not ignoring you. We're just getting started, and we're going to have some fun today. So how long have you been working for Restream for? Is it quite a few years now?
Yeah, it's actually coming to almost my third year is coming soon. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but it also seems like it's just started yesterday. I started in 2018 and I joined the team relatively early on. We were still a relatively small startup at that time, and I was doing my first official title was global marketing manager. So I was doing just global marketing partnerships, events, things like that. And at that time, we were focusing on gaming more than other verticals. So that's what my background and experience was, and that's why I started. And then fast forward to 2020, we transitioned me into basically building this influencer marketing channel and the whole program for Restream brand advocates and evangelists and awesome influencers that I'm privileged to work with these days. So I do have an interesting perspective on the influencer marketing channel from both kind of sides of the story, because I do work with influencers myself. And I was also helping game publishers and gaming brands to connect with our streamers in the past. So I was basically representing influencers, selling their services to brands. And now I am a brand myself, looking for opinion leaders to partner in order to spread the word and love about Restream. So there's a lot of different angles that we could kind of unpack that from, because it is a complex ecosystem. And at the same time, it's a very important thing for any brand and product to consider as part of their strategy.
Definitely. That's really interesting to see your progression, and interesting the whole gaming thing. In fact, actually, that's one thing that we should probably do an episode on. I'm sure you'd agree on gaming. I wouldn't say I'm not like a massive gamer, but my son is. He's massively into Minecraft, and I'm sure you would say that there's quite a big proportion of Restream users that are into gaming. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of the channels, well, certainly not all of them. There's a good number that are dedicated to gaming. But yeah, I'll be really interested actually if you're watching live or the replay. Put in the comments whether you would identify as a gamer, or whether you're using Restream or multicasting for marketing purposes or something else. It'd be really interesting to know about that. So, can you remember, Anya, your first live video experience?
Oh gosh,
how did it go for you?
I do. It's really hard to forget, because it actually started kind of at the same time when I started using Restream, before I even started to work for Restream. So I was previously working at a startup accelerator here in Austin, Texas, and that was the first time when I was like, oh gosh, like we could do little live videos with those startup companies, and maybe like startup/investor talks and things like that. But before I was able to actually start and build that program, I then joined Restream. And then I was like, okay, I definitely need to start streaming now, so I know what I'm talking about, I understand the product. So one of my first months with the company, I decided to stream. And of course, at that time, the idea was that most people would be streaming gaming, and I needed to find a game to stream. And I am a PlayStation gamer, so like I'm not a PC gamer at all. I don't know how people play on their computers. I don't know how to use your keyboard to play. I'm like a joystick girl, right? So yeah, and so I decided I'm going to do that, and I brought my friend in because I was not comfortable doing it by myself. And we bought a capture card from Elgato. We got like the microphone. We got all the things we thought, and I got Restream, and I was like, okay, we got this. And I remember we were playing a Little Big Planet. It was some kind of like a kid's game, like educational. It was a super simple platformer, like very straightforward, because we were like, there's no way we're going to manage this thing and also understand what's going on with the game if the game is complex. And we failed miserably. Gosh, like our sound didn't go through, I guess because we didn't do something right. And in the end of the day, till now, I deliberately didn't delete it. Till now, I have the video on my personal YouTube channel of the gameplay with game music and like no sound, no video on our end, just us playing the platformer for an hour. And we thought we were hilarious and we thought we were so cool because we just didn't realize at that time how much you need to test and check before you actually feel comfortable to do this. So that was my very first stream ever. And like we looked at that and we were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't do this again. This is not very...
But I think it's those learning experiences that can make you into a better live streamer. I think we can all share some of those stories. And it has to be said that things these days, I'm going to sound like a really old guy now. You know, when I was like 4 years ago, when I was live streaming before, it was a lot more difficult because, you know, I think OBS Studio is a great tool, but there's more that can go wrong with that. I think you would agree. You know, you've got to select the microphone.
A lot.
You know, you can't just put your video on and then expect. So whereas with Restream Studio, you just click a button and it all kind of works. So, but I don't know what you think about this. I think if you haven't had a disaster in live streaming, you probably haven't gone live enough, or you're not taking enough risks. So I actually think it's good to have a few disasters and learn from those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, actually going to like add on to this first stream story. Then literally the next stream that I did was a year later when Restream Studio became available. And that was immediately my first stream in the studio. And I think it was one of my first Friday Lives episodes. And I was kind of terrified because I remembered how like the gaming thing didn't necessarily pin out quite as we expected. But with the studio, it was a completely different experience because I didn't need to manage so many different things. I didn't have to deal with the horrors of, you know, complexity of OBS or any other like really difficult professional capturing software. And at that time in the studio, we literally had like 3 buttons in the like below your image and then a couple of tabs on the right. And I was like, oh gosh, this is so easy. And it did work. And yeah, I was really impressed at how simple streaming can become compared to what, you know, most people think about it and expect.
Yeah, we can overcomplicate things. Let me know in the comments if you like to overcomplicate things. Yeah, I definitely sometimes do that. We've got some fabulous people watching. Thank you so much, everyone, for commenting. So we've got Devin watching from Ottawa in Canada and Brad watching from Boston. Now, we've got some questions. So I don't know whether you can help with some of these, Anya. We've got some people from Restream also in the chat. But Mumsal was wondering how come Facebook Live is part of the paid plan. So I'm not sure... Because Facebook Live, there's the free plan. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about what's available in the free plan and the paid plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So the free plan is designed for your personal individual streaming, right? Like, so if you are streaming to your personal Facebook page, like your personal profile, if you're streaming to your personal YouTube channel, your Twitter account, this kind of things, then you can use our free plan and it is covered, like all those channels and platforms are covered under that standard, free basic plan, right? The moment when you want to start streaming to your business pages, like when you are looking at Facebook group, at your Facebook fan page, or you're looking at your LinkedIn page versus your LinkedIn profile, this is when you'll be needing a standard or professional plan, depending on how many of those custom channels you would want and how much control over branding, over overlays, over graphics you would like to add on to that, especially in the context of studio. So you absolutely can stream to Facebook profile for free, but we assume that if you are needing to stream to your page, this is when it becomes more of an official business type affair, and this is why we have that's an upgraded plan. Remember that your Facebook page, if you're just looking to stream to one, would be covered by your standard plan. It's only $19 a month. That's $19, and you can you can upgrade to that. A lot of times we'll have some promotions going on, so you can potentially get that deal even with better offer. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on our newsletter. Keep an eye on our social media. Whenever we have promotions, we always post about them. And this is how you can accomplish what you're looking for.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think Mums also says, four pages and also says, hi, by the way. So it's great to see. It was a great question. Hi. I think that this is great in that with Restream, if you want to dip your toe and test things out, then you can use your Facebook profile. Just test how Restream works. And then if you're really happy with it and you want to go live to a page, if you want to do things a bit more professionally, then it's at that point then you'll want to go on to one of the paid plans. So I think that's a great question. Raymond is watching from West Palm Beach, if I speak properly, West Palm Beach, Florida, and Aman is watching from Pakistan. Autumn says is obviously a gaming fan, so let's talk gaming. We will definitely do an episode on gaming. And Mumsel says, I identify as a gamer. This is an interesting one from Devin. He says, ex-gamer 15 years ago, but marketing and digital strategist today. But do you still game? That's what I want to know. Autumn says, I'm a joystick girl as well. You can use a PC controller with a PC. So we've got some other great comments coming through, which I'll get to. So just if you could be patient, we will get back to that. But if you just joined us, today, Go Live with Restream show is all about how to build an influencer marketing channel for your brand. And I've got Anya Razina here from Restream. So I think it's important to get into influencer marketing. So what is an influencer? I mean, it's the word that we see a lot. You know, we've probably seen a lot of negative stuff on the socials about influencers. But what, in your view, is an influencer? And you used a phrase when we were chatting before, an opinion leader. So is there a difference between an influencer and an opinion leader? What would you say?
I do have kind of like my own interpretation of the two terms, and I don't know exactly how accurate they would be, you know, in like professional academic marketing book might disagree with me and my interpretation, but this is how I see this based on my experience. Influencer and opinion leader are very similar, right? Like both of those people potentially would have an established community, certain number of people in their network that follow them and who are interested in their opinions and advice on the topic where they are subject matter experts. So that is something that is similar between the two. Now, when we think about influencer, traditionally, we think about someone who is really big. We think about Ninja when we talk about gaming influencers. We think about Neil Patel when we talk about marketing influencers. Like we talk about people who are capable of getting a whole football stadium full of people and present to that audience, and everyone would know them and everyone would be super engaged, right? Versus an opinion leader could be someone who is not necessarily a celebrity level person, but he is kind of like a Richie in the niche, so to say, right? Like he's very knowledgeable about his specific niche, his specific subject, and he is an opinion leader in that specific area. And at that point, I believe opinion leaders get a little bit more specific than just marketing or just social media. If you're an opinion leader in live streaming, for example, you would be specifically live streaming for marketing, using web browser solutions, and that is your area of expertise. You might not know much about live streaming using certain other technologies and approaches, but you would be an opinion leader in that specific niche. So this is kind of how I separate them internally. So, and for me, when I build those partnerships, the most important thing is not necessarily the size of the influencer or opinion leader. It is how engaged their community is and how relevant that community that he or she is catering to our product.
That's really interesting. I think that's a really good definition. Whether there is a right or wrong definition of an influencer, I don't know. But I've heard different people talk about that maybe there are different levels of influencer. So you can have like a mega influencer, but now we've got mini influencers or micro influencers, and we've even got nano influencers now, which apparently, in terms of followers, I know you say numbers are not everything, and actually it's the engagement and it's the community, but they may be people who've got a very small audience of maybe 1,000 or something, but they're really, really engaged. And so that's kind of interesting. We're seeing more of that type of thing. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yes, just a few more comments. We've got Rodrigo from Mexico, and Humayun says, please share some information about streaming directly from the browser. I already have 2 paid accounts. And so it depends on, traditionally, Restream has been a service that you use a third-party tool like OBS Studio or Ecamm or something like that, and then you would then stream to Restream, and then the Restream would then take care of all the multi-streaming. But when did Restream Studio launch, Anya? It was relatively recently. It was sometime this year.
Yeah, it was early 2020. I would say like January, February was one of our like beta versions of the
Yeah.
product, and it was pretty established by spring, end of spring, early summer. Basically, the version that we're looking at today is something that was around since summer. So yeah, it is definitely relatively new. It's constantly evolving. So there are a lot of things and features that are being added as we speak right now. A lot of feedback loops kind of like running around with our influencers, of course, as well as our community and content creators who are using Restream in general. So we definitely welcome your feedback at any time. I'd love for everyone to make sure that they know.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like the web browser, so the studio, we have an internal joke here that the studio was built for people like me, for people who do not want to understand how OBS works. And not necessarily because they're not capable, but because they're busy and because there's so much going on, and they just need a simple way to go live, but also to create professional and branded live streams and send them to all their social channels and all their networks and communities at the same time. So this is how the studio was born. So it's basically a very simple. It's a web browser, web-based solution. You don't have to download anything. It's not a desktop application of any sort. You just create an account, you go live. You do depend on good quality internet for this whole thing to work. So a lot of people who are experiencing little hiccups, a lot of times that could be resolved by simply wiring your internet instead of using a Wi-Fi and just actually using a cable. So that's just something to like a limitation to that you need to keep in mind, that there is very little room for good looking professional live streaming with poor quality internet. That's just the reality of and the physics of planet Earth, whether you love it or hate it. But once you overcome once you overcome the internet, this is the way that you could stream pretty easily. And a lot of people think that they have to have some crazy production skills and editing skills and amazing on-camera performance skills. The studio takes care of most of those things. There's literally like 5 buttons right now on one side and 3 tabs on the other, and it is really easy for anyone to get started, to create your overlays, to create your images, those amazing pre-roll videos that you played earlier before we got started. All of that is available within Studio Space, and in the end, you see streams that look like professional production when actually they don't take that much effort to create.
Yeah, it is really, really easy to use, and that's one of the things I love about Restream Studio. I also love the fact that you're adding so many new features all the time. I mean, one thing that I wanted added was stereo, because I don't know, I've got a musical background, so I like the idea of broadcasting in stereo, and so that was added. You know, there are all these things that are being added all the time. So if there is something, if you go and so definitely check out Studio. It's available on all the plans, and I think it's available on all the plans, isn't it, including the free one? Is that right?
The stereo, I believe so. Yes.
I meant the studio.
Yeah. In general, the studio there are certain limitations. I believe if you want to stream in full HD, that's when you would need an upgrade plan. But just the standard studio with Restream branding is available on free plan, and of course, it is available on standard and professional. Yeah,
definitely. So you can check that out, play around with it, and if you've got any thoughts, if there's anything that it doesn't do that you would think would be a really good thing, then just tell the team, and they're always listening out for new stuff. But there's always going to be Restream Studio is all about being simple as well. We want it to be easy to use, but feature rich, and there's always a balance, isn't there, between those two things. So I think, did you say the word niche, or did you say niche? I'm just out of interest. Are you a niche person or a niche person?
I think I say niche. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Niche.
What about you? Yeah,
I'm niche. We had this a few weeks ago, so just out of interest, if you're watching, are you neat? Do you say niche or niche or niche? Just out of interest.
I didn't know there's a third one. I thought it was just niche or niche, and I think I actually changed it around. But I'm not a native speaker of English, so I can get away with a lot of things when it comes to pronunciation.
It's funny because I live in the UK, but I spend a lot of time speaking with my North American friends, and so. Yeah, I get confused. I really do get confused. Jonathan says, so this is kind of following on from that. We will get back to influencer marketing in a bit, but he says, is webcam the only way of connecting to Restream Studio? How many cameras can Studio take simultaneously? So I think I can probably answer that, and then maybe Anya, you can maybe follow on from that.
Sure.
So
I'll let you have your take, and I'll add on.
yeah, and
if
then you
needed.
can tell me if I'm totally wrong at this point. At the moment, I think you can only connect one webcam to Studio, but you can use some extra software. So you could, and this is where you could get a bit fancy and complicated. You could use the likes of OBS Studio or Ecamm Live and output that into Studio. And you could use basically an external switcher, either software based. Such as the ones I'm telling you about, or you could use an external switcher and do it that way. That's the fancy way of doing it. What's your thoughts on that, Anya?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you do have the opportunity to connect one USB-based web camera, or you can do DSLRs, your Black Magic if you want to, but you will need to use one of those switchers. And we do have a couple of help centers articles about that, and we are actually, I believe we're creating a couple of videos that show you exactly how to connect your DSLR camera. At this moment, it is only one camera for the studio, but we are working to bring multi-camera support, because it's a very common request. A lot of people do want to have multiple cameras. So that's one of the features that is being in progress as we speak right now.
That's cool. Now, I wouldn't recommend this, but I was testing this earlier. You could log on to a different browser. So if you're on Chrome, you could go onto Firefox and bring yourself in as a guest on a different camera. Might not be a good idea,
wow.
but anyway, you can.
That sounds like a really cool thing to do. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I was doing that to just test. It was actually before you came on, because I'm putting these overlays on here, and I wanted to make sure that your name was at the right kind of like bit, so I just put myself in as a guest. So there were two Ians, which was slightly scary, but Autumn Fall says I need to look into overlays. So yeah, maybe we can do a show about that, on how you can create overlays. But you can add overlays directly in Restream Studio, but you'll obviously need a graphics package, whether that you're feeling fancy and using Photoshop, or there's tools like Canva or Easel and things like that. So Jonathan says he's a corporate guy, and he does, so that's cool. And Devon says, no, this is the whole thing about gaming. I don't have time. 4 kids, co-owner of a firm, spare time goes to playing music. But I think he does say, he does play one game every year over Christmas. And so there we go, over the holidays. That's great. Got loads more comments coming, but let's get back to the whole influencer thing. And by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, if you want to be notified of forthcoming shows, this happens every single Tuesday at the same time. But if you want to be notified, all you need to do is go to confident.live/restream. That's confident.live/restream. I'll try and put that in the comments in a bit. And that uses my fancy messenger bot, which will remind you 15 minutes before each show. So cool. Right. So
Awesome.
Why, if we're a brand, so if I know there's some we've got some corporate people in here, we've got some marketers and business owners. Why would we want to consider bringing on an influencer onto to help with our marketing, and that kind of thing? I'd be interested. You at Restream, this is something that you've obviously looked at and are doing. What's the point? Why should we do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from marketing perspective, from perspective of a brand or product, when you think about how you're going to market whatever you created, and it doesn't really matter if you're a corporate, or if you're a startup, or if you're a tech company, or even if you are someone who's just doing like arts and crafts type thing. If you think about your products, whether physical or digital, as a business, you got to think about sales, of course. You got to think about brand awareness. You got to think about exposure, connecting with your community, all these complex things. And remember, a lot of things that used to work in the past, such as, we're just going to put people on mailing list and send them a newsletter. We're just going to open up a shop and like people will come in and just buy this product in the shop because the shop is here. We are transitioning into a slightly different reality. We are these days selling in the social world, right? In a social web, if you wish, where people are making their purchasing decision, making their brand loyalty decisions based on opinions of other people, whether you like it or not, whether you love it or hate it. Again, this is the physics of planet Earth again these days, because people would read reviews, people would follow people who they find interesting and engaging, and this is what's going to determine and a lot of times what kind of purchasing decisions they make. So if you want to be part of that ecosystem, if you want to be part of that equation, you got to partner with those people. You got to find the people who are driving awareness of the newest, best things in your field, in your industry, and you got to talk to those people, partner with them, and create the environment for your product and or your service or whatever is that you're offering, that this is the solution of choice, that this works well, that this delights customers. And this is what influencer marketing is all about. It's creating the atmosphere and the environment and the space for your product to be interesting, to be welcomed by the community, and also to ensure that people are aware of what you're building and what you're doing. So this is why you should care about this, basically, in a few words, because this is going to be the future of your sales, of your marketing, of your brand awareness, all those things. Because if you put a billboard on the road, if you play a commercial on TV, that might still work for a little bit, but eventually it's gonna become obsolete. And those influential opinion leaders and creators of the web are going to be driving the best and the newest things in your field and in your industry.
That's so true. There's a fabulous book written by a friend of mine, Mark Schaefer, called Marketing Rebellion, and it kind of talks about the fact that marketing has changed completely, and people don't trust brands as much as they used to. The loyalty's gone. So, you at Restream, you can go on and say how amazing Restream is until you're blue in your face, but actually people are going to are more likely to trust somebody out there who's done a video that talks about how amazing Restream is. So I think that's what's happened. I think we've it's built. That's what bringing in influencers is so important, because people trust that much more. And do you think do you think the honesty of influencers is really important? Do you think it's all about, how does that work? When you bring on an influencer, I think one concern that I think some businesses and brands have is, well, what happens if I get an influencer and they start, I don't know, saying bad things about us or talking about our competitors? How does that work?
It is a very tricky business, and it's a very slippery slope or very thin line that you have to walk as a brand, because you're absolutely right. On one hand, you cannot hire a bunch of people, even if they're influential, to say, hey, Restream is the best thing is Restream, nothing is like Restream, bye Restream right now. That influencer is not going to do you any good. And even if it does work for a little bit, it's not going to last for long, and it's not a sustainable relationship. On the other hand, if you talk to an opinion leader and say, hey, check out our product, and we know that there are certain competitors, there's certain alternatives to what we're building, and if you don't ever know if that person is going to recommend you or an alternative product, then kind of like how do you build that relationship? So it is an art in its own way. Yeah. I would say the most important thing for me as a brand would be two things. First of all, when you work with influencers, you should start with people who are already delighted by your product, who already like it, who already enjoy it, and who already use it. Don't go to the biggest guy on earth, to the biggest YouTube celebrity, and say, hey, I have this app that allows you to get groceries from your local stores and responsibly source farmers. Why don't you have a look and then create a video or a whole campaign about it? It's not going to happen. Start with people who are already using your product, or people who are using similar products who would be interested and curious in trying something that you offer. And start with your existing fans, because those would be the best brand evangelists and the best advocates for what you're building. And then build on, and then continue creating and building those relationships, and including more and more people and more influential opinion leaders into that circle. So that's number one thing. The person has already liked the product. If they hate the product, no money in the world, none of my persuasion, none of my charm and charisma is going to ever help me to convince them that, because they will never sound genuine. They would never be, they would never be a true fan. And the second thing is, of course, give them their creative freedom. I am really big on not scripting my influencers, not ever allowing not ever demanding them to verify every single comma and dot in every script that they're writing. I want them to be them, because this is, in the end of the day, why they have their community. The people come to watch Ian Anderson Gray because of the way he is. If I tell him to completely change everything from his haircut to his t-shirt and all the way to the way that he speaks, no more Nishi, now Nichi, like, it's not gonna it's not gonna resonate with the community. So let them be. And if you don't connect with that influencer, if you don't like their style, if you don't necessarily feel like, okay, this is a good collaboration, I see this person being the face of my brand, then move on. And that's okay. It's not because you're bad or your brand is bad. It's not because that person is bad. It's just because you don't necessarily connect, and that's totally fine. Just, keep going. You will find yours at some point.
That is really, really good advice. So that was fabulous. That was pure gold what you were saying there. I think it is an art. It can be a slippery slope, and I think all the things you said there are really, really helpful. I've worked as a brand ambassador for a few companies, and I've worked when it's gone well and when it's not gone so well. And usually when it doesn't go well, it's when the brand is very, very prescriptive. Or in the early days when I wasn't so experienced, I think I probably didn't do as much of a good job as I could have done. So definitely there are some issues. Are there any other stumbling blocks that you would, for either you, if you're an influencer or want to be influencer, or as a brand, any other things that you would like to tell us that we should be thinking about?
Well, I can add a little more about from the brand's perspective, and then we can kind of transition to influencer perspective. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Where do you get started if you want to start partnering with brands and get those sponsorships going for yourself and for your channel? But one more thing that, like one big thing that I already mentioned earlier is like start with your existing database, because a lot of people start going outbound massively before they go inbound. It's a very common mistake, because a lot of times your super fans, your opinion leaders, your specialists in your field are already in your database, they're already your subscribers or users. But the second thing is, of course, the competition thing that you kind of mentioned. It is it's a delicate question of how do you restrict your influencers from endorsing your direct competitors, but at the same time, you give them the room and the space to continue staying an expert in their area. Because let's face it, if you are trying to sell an iPhone and you come to a person who is notorious and super popular for reviewing mobile phones, you can't tell that person to never review Google phone or Galaxy, right? Or Samsung phone or whatever. Because if you're only reviewing iPhones and no other phones are ever on your channel, sooner or later, people who are coming to understand like which phone should I buy, what are the benefits, what are the pros and cons of each new device, will stop coming. And that influencer will lose their power. So by restricting that person to only praise and endorse you and never touch anything else, you are actually limiting yourself from reaching wider audience that would naturally gravitate towards that influencer. But at the same time, you have to keep it balanced, right? Because if someone is saying today that iPhone is the best thing in the world, tomorrow there's a new video that Samsung Galaxy is the most epic phone ever, and then on the third day they make a video about Google phone being the top of the line and the best thing ever, this is what I'm using, then it's also getting confusing. But in that sense, you have to trust that influencer and opinion leader themselves understand that, okay, I cannot endorse everything. I got to pick my poison here and there. And then you just need to hope that that poison will just happen to be your poison. And then in that case, that's going to be a very mutual and beneficial collaboration.
It's a tough job. I do. I have to kind of give you that. What you do but it must be fun. It must be a fun job too. I hope we don't have any iPhone Android wars in the comments. But I just want to go through some of the comments. You've been waiting really patiently, so thank you so much. Marcus Santos says, "Hi influencers," and Joshua says, "I guess we will see if TikTok allows multi-streaming someday." So yeah, we'll have to see about that. I'm not. Are you a TikTok user, Anya?
I'm not, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it would be really interesting for us to partner and connect, because I think TikTok could benefit from, massive creators from other platforms, because it's such an uprising platform right now. Everyone is so interested. And it's kind of like a young people thing, but at the same time, it is new. So there's a lot more room. It's a lot less saturated than, for example, YouTube or Twitch. So
That's true. That's true.
I'm really interested in seeing when they allow multi-streaming, and would definitely be happy to.
We'll see. I feel I'm really old, so I don't know if I'm going to ever get on TikTok. We'll see. Autumn says, can you share more details about the pre-roll videos in the studio space? So, I mean, you just upload them in there's the graphics tab, and you upload them into there. Is there anything more you would like to say about the pre-recorded bits?
Yeah, there is my favorite way of adding pre-recorded videos or pre-rolls that is alternative to what you mentioned. Yeah, one way to do it is go to graphics, upload your video in advance, and then play it, like just click on it. Remember, if you're doing it that way, it's going to be a takeover of your screen. So your microphone would be off, the video is going to take the whole screen. And partly, yes, if you have like a 2-minute video, you can go and make yourself a margarita. But if you are trying to talk over this video or have a conversation and also be present with your video, then I would recommend using our local video source button. That's something that you will see next to your screen share. In that case, you can upload, so you can basically click the button, select the video from your computer, just from your folder, and then you can toggle that video in like you would a guest or a shared screen. And then in that case, that video would be either playing right next to you, or you can still spotlight it or maximize it even. But in that case, your camera and your microphone would still be active, so you can actually talk over it or let it play, but know that you have a little bit more control over it because you can pause it and then you can play it again from that same place. So I am personally, within Studio Space, I'm a big fan of a local source file versus the upload graphics video. But there are 2 ways to play it, which is pretty unique. That's not something that you will find in a lot of solutions.
Yeah, that's true. No, I haven't come across that in other, certainly in web-based solutions. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing to be able to do, and it just makes it really, really easy. So I can't wait to play around with that. So I hope that's helpful, Autumn. Tiffany says, I can't figure out how to make that banner you have around your video. So in Restream Studio, you've got the ability just to add any kind of graphic as the background. You could also add the names of you and your guest in there. I've actually created a graphic here and actually put in my name and Anya's name in that. So I just used Canva for this. But there's lots of, there are any other ways you would do this, Anya? What do you do for your show?
We use Figma, which is kind of semi-professional software. And I believe so for my graphics, we actually have a designer department. So like, I'm very fortunate to have professional help when it comes to my overlays and graphics, because trust me, you would not want to see the graphics that I designed. This is a blessing that we have, people who take care of that and don't let that happen. So yeah, we basically create templates in Figma, and then I can just adjust the name or add a picture if I'm adding the picture of my guest to the background or to the thumbnail, so to say. So that's our platform of choice, but you can do it in anything. Canva is one way. You can, I believe, of course, Photoshop if you're knowledgeable and comfortable using that. So basically, any graphic program will allow you to create those overlays. Just make sure you leave the room, like that transparent space around where you want to have your video or other graphic elements. But yeah, then that's the nice place to create overlays.
That's great. And the great thing about the studio is you don't need to worry about cutting transparent bits out. So on some software like OBS, what you would tend to do is you would be an overlay, and then underneath you'd have the webcams. So you don't have to worry about any of that. It's just use a package like what Anya recommended there. And something that you can do that I did is, I actually took a little screenshot of. This was when I brought myself in twice, but I could take a screenshot now and then use that just to have it be as a guide of where you're going to put the names underneath. So you can have so much fun with this. It's really good. Tiffany says niche. Good on you. Says it must be French origins. Autumn says quiche. this is where
this rhymes.
It does. It does. So yeah, Gabriel also asked, how do you add the names to the stream? So yeah, I've done this with background images, but you can use add graphics within the graphics bit as well. Okay, what else have we got here before we get back? So TJ Wood says, sorry, can you answer the question I asked earlier about Facebook Live? If you can see, oh, sorry about this, TJ. I did see your one earlier, but I just lost it again. So can you see who is live and if you can bring somebody on the screen? So I think this question was, so when you go live from your phone, this will be to your personal profile. You can see which of your friends are watching with you. Now, Facebook have also, they keep bringing this in and then taking it away. You used to have the ability, then they took it away, and now they've brought it back to then bring in one of those viewers onto your show on your phone. But the thing is, if you're going live to your page, you don't have that feature anymore because of privacy and security. So unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether you use Restream or any other service, you can't actually see who else is watching unless they comment, and that's just to do with the Facebook API and just to do with Facebook with their security side of things. But you can now in Studio, you can actually see how many people are watching live. So obviously you want to encourage people to leave a comment, and then in that case you can interact with them, see who's watching. Any thoughts on that, Anya?
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Unless the question was about like highlighting the comments, like you can actually show how someone from Facebook is commenting. You can just like put them on the screen like you were doing earlier today.
Yeah.
And that will allow everyone on all platforms to see, who is here. So, but in that case, yes, you'll have to highlight that specific comment. And I think
that's great.
I think there's a comment from Autumn to the previous thing that we were saying about the names, right? Like, so she says, add graphics to add names. Actually, there is a way to add participant names within Studio without adding any graphics. So if you go to the graphics section and scroll down, there's a little toggle that says participant names. And then if you toggle that in, here we go. So there is Ian and there is me, and it's also in brand color that Ian selected earlier. So it's that red color of his. And that is the way for you to add names without doing any work at all, except for typing up your name and asking your guest to do the same. So you don't have to create graphics in order to showcase the name of your guest, but it's just, if you want to have more control, more branding, your favorite font, that kind of stuff, then you would need to use overlay.
That's cool. Yeah, there's loads of things. You've got the ability to add logos, overlays. So this thing here, that's that little icon, that logo on the top right is an overlay. You can add videos like this, which is pre-recorded video, and then there's backgrounds, which I won't change my background, but there's loads of stuff that you can do. It's really good fun. So so thank you for that. Let's see if there are any other questions before. Let's have a look. Autumn says multicams. I do that. So I use the OBS to add the camera. So you could do that or something like that. This is an interesting question from Autumn. What type of engagement factors do you consider for influencers? That's a great question, because it used to be, certainly when I was looking at this, people would ask, how many followers do you have on X? And that was it. And if you had loads, then you were signed up. It's a bit more complicated. It's not as simple as that these days, And you did talk about this a little bit, that it's more to do with the engagement. But can you, what's your view on this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Autumn. I would say, if anything, followers would be the least important metric for brand like us, for Restream, primarily because this is one of the metrics that is the easiest to inflate. So basically, put some tricks and technological ingenuity in order to make your account to look much more followed than it actually is. So what we are looking at in terms of engagement, there are a couple of things that we really consider. Number one thing is the people who are actively participating in conversations. Whether it's a live stream, we're looking at who is actually watching, who is commenting, who is participating in the chat. Like right now, we have a pretty busy chat right here. So that means that this community right here for us is pretty engaged. So this would be the number, not the number of people who follow the channels that we streamed to, because this is the real people. This is the reality. This is who we include in conversation, who we can actually exchange ideas and opinions. This is the valuable time well spent for us. Then another thing that we will be looking at is, of course, conversions. it is a little bit trickier than likes and comments and engagement from the community. But it is also something for us to keep in mind. If I am working with an influencer who has 100,000 followers on his or her social channels, claims to have 1,000 people watching all the time whenever they do anything, and then when they offer people to check out Restream, we get, let's say, 1 registration per month, even for a free account from them. Well, that means that something is wrong, right? Like, it's either some of those people are not interested in what they're saying. Maybe that's not a good fit for us. Maybe our product is completely irrelevant to their community, or the numbers of followers and engagement are not necessarily representative of the reality, right? So it has to be a good balance of all those things, like how many likes those people are getting, how many people are participating in conversations like chatters and comments, and how much engagement and conversions you can expect, at least at the level of check out our product, not necessarily buy and upgrade, but at least check it out, create an account, play with the tool, considering that it's free at some point for almost everything, right? Like, you either have a trial or you have a freemium account or something of that kind. This is a great way for you to understand if this community is going to be interested in what you're doing and how engaged and how much do they care about what the opinion leader has to say.
That's really, really good answer there. I think it's a good question. So thanks for that, Autumn. Randall asks, this is another good question. We've got some great questions here. How does one set a value to their influence? How do we decide what to charge or pay for services? That's a really difficult one.
Randall, this is $1 million question. That's $1 million question. It is borderline impossible to assign value to your influencer before you start collaborating with him. So, and I don't know if anyone can convince me otherwise. I would be very grateful to that person, because I would love to have a formula or some kind of a framework for that. But in my personal experience, it is virtually impossible to do that accurately and correctly until you do some kind of a trial thing. So my recommendation would be, if you found somebody who you think you're comfortable working with, you enjoy on a personal level, communication and all that stuff, give them a 30 days trial, offer them either something for free or maybe some kind of like a reasonable, like early stage entry level compensation, and see what they can do for you, because there is absolutely no way you could know how much this particular channel or community could do for you unless you try. So in terms of assigning value, and then once you start, then we're coming back to that question of like, how do you measure the return on the investment? How much engagement does that person have? How much conversions do they offer? Maybe their conversion rate is not great. Maybe people don't necessarily click his or her referral link, but they create amazing content that is just so educational, so engaging, and so inspiring that you could repurpose that content and send it to your support team so those people could share with confused users, or you could repurpose it into some kind of like a fun commercial style video, so anything like that. That's a huge value as well, not necessarily just salesy style conversions, but also brand awareness, great exposure, good quality content. So all of those things you will probably be able to assess within 30 to 90 days as maximum. Usually within a month, you would know if this is a good fit or not. So, and then again, decide on what is the most important metric for you. Because if you're looking for influencers who will sell for you, that might be a specific type of influencer. So you need to work with people who are specifically trained and focused on that, people who know how to push subscriptions, conversions, signups, and things like that. If you're looking for awareness, if you're looking for people creating educational materials, tutorials, engaging videos, that might be a different kind of person. They might be not good at converting and selling, but they will be creating the brand awareness and create a ton of content that is going to help your search engine optimization and bring a lot of other good stuff into your space for your product. So this is definitely something to consider. And in terms of how much you pay, that is another black magic in art that you cannot really, it's so crazy how saturated and at the same time kind of like uncontrolled the market on influencers right now is. Like, you can reach out to somebody and they would tell you that they want $50,000 to play a 90-second integration video about your product in their live stream or their pre-recorded video on YouTube, and you're like, gosh, like, are you really, like, am I going to get a return on that? This is crazy. Like, this is so much. And then you can have someone who would do that for a fraction of that cost, but then they will be loyal, they will be great, and they would create amazing videos, amazing content, and would truly engage their community and inspire them to try what you're building. So I would say figure out what your budget is, like how much you can afford, and then consider negotiating, of course, if you're limited in your resources. But in the end of the day, I would say it's going to be dependent on how much your product costs, right? Like, and how many influencers you're willing to sponsor. I would say the numbers are so different for every single relationship. I have not found a way to automate it properly so far, and it's still a one-on-one conversation with each individual influencer so far. But once you start kind of looking at your market and kind of considering asking the influencers who promote similar products to yours or something in the similar industry, at least if your product is unique and there are no competitors, you can always say, okay, so like if this 10 people charge this much for a dedicated video versus video pre-roll or a sponsored post or something else that you want them to create for you, do that analysis, look at what they charge on average, and then just stick to that. And if someone wants 3 times more, you can just say, hey, sorry, this is beyond our budget. And if someone asks for less, keep that in mind, that, okay, so this is way below market rate. So that might be some food for thought for you, like why they're charging less. So, but yeah, it's definitely a lot of research, and individual contracts and individual relationships are still going to be a manual, one-on-one, time-consuming process, but it's worth it because look at that as an investment, because you invest in that relationship, you invest in those conversations, but then you build something that you could take to the next level whenever you are ready and whenever your product is ready.
I think you're so right. You can't automate this. It's all about those human relationships, and so that's so important. Joshua said, "I love the pick your poison metaphor, Anya." And Autumn says, "I'm heavily focused on Instagram Reels over TikTok." So Instagram have released their kind of take on TikTok with Instagram Reels. So I'm interested if anyone's playing around with that. We've got Re87 saying, how to build a YouTube channel. Simple, pay for Russian bots to like your stuff. Probably not the best thing to do, I would say. Joshua says, I love the option for local source videos in addition to the pre-roll. I think that's definitely something I really, really want to play a lot more with. And Autumn says, I could see how the local source option would be effective for just chatting IRL in Twitch, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
And that's nice to add the guests in the overlay. Autumn says, yeah, OBS is a little complicated with the sources. But I mean, if you're wanting to play around, if you're wanting to, if you are more geeky and you're not, you kind of find that fun, then by all means use OBS. Or if you're a Mac user, you could use something like Ecamm Live. I mean, they're great, but the beauty of Studio is that you don't have to. You can just go on and just use it simply, which I know, Anya, you love, and many people love. You don't want to deal with the techie side of things. So Autumn says, yes, add graphics to names, add graphics to add names. That'd be good. So let's see if there are any more questions just before we finish. Yeah, we've got some more techie things go on there. And Tiffany says OBS makes it glitchy. It kind of depends, I think, on your computer there. But just before we finish, we're just almost at the end of the show. Where does live streaming come into all of this? If you're a brand, would you? I mean, obviously with Restream, it makes sense to bring on influencers to live stream because Restream's a live streaming platform. But if you're another type of business, would you still recommend live streaming, that influencers come in and do some live streaming and you build an influencer marketing channel with that in mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. Remember how in the beginning, when we talked about like why do you need influencer marketing strategy at all, we mentioned that if you as Restream or as any brand just run around and say my brand is the best, my product is the best, there is likely not going to be very effective result out of that. But there is possibly one exception, and that is live streaming. If you as a brand start streaming whatever that is, your product demos, your behind the scenes, your Q&A sessions with your network and your clients, interviews with the experts in your area, in your industry, any kind of meetups or virtual conferences and virtual summits that revolve around the topics that your product is catering to, that will change the optics immediately from that being just a commercial, that being a promotional email, that being some kind of a post that is inviting people to buy something, into partly vulnerable, very authentic, and very open and interactive conversation with the community about something that you have to offer. So this is one way how you could kind of reverse that whole logic of no one is going to listen to me because I'm the brand. People would need to talk to other, influencers. And that's when influencers come in as well, because they can support you in that. They can live stream for you, with you. They can live stream on their own using your product or mentioning you or discussing the topics that are interesting for people who would potentially be your potential customers or your target audience. And that all creates completely new environment of how you could make those relationships and make connections. Because in the end of the day, today, this is not about creating a product that people will buy. It's not necessarily selling something that people are willing to pay for. It is about creating experiences and creating the community and building the movement, if you wish, right? Like one thing that we're doing here at Restream is we are building a movement around the fact that anyone can be a content creator, a live streamer, a producer. Yeah. Anyone who has a message to deliver could do that in an easy, compelling, and interactive way and be inclusive of their community, clients, and network into the conversation. And this is very powerful. As simple as and as scary as it sounds for the first time when you have never done this before, and let's say you're making some physical product that used to sell just fine on Etsy, then all of a sudden you think about this from that perspective of creating a conversation, creating space, including your community and your clients into the discussion of how you build this product, why you build it, who are you building it for. And that makes you a unique and powerful element of that system. And then all of a sudden it's all again in your power, it's in your hands of how your product grows and how your community evolves.
That's really awesome, definitely. And if you aren't feeling confident, getting an influencer who's got a bit more experience with live streaming is going to make it a lot easier for you. But as we said at the start, you've got to start somewhere and just get started with live streaming. Tiffany asks a question, how do you get the red icons on your wallpaper? Because mine shows me full screen. So I think it was the Restream design team put this together. So this is one big image that you're seeing there. So if I go in now and change that, that's just one big image there you see. So, and then the image on the top right that's actually an overlay icon, which is on a transparent thing. So that's how that works. I hope that explains it. We're out of time, but I wanted to ask you one final question. Sure. This show is all about, or one of the main topics is about multi-streaming. So would you consider, when building this channel, this marketing channel for influencers, or using influencers, where does multi-streaming come into this? Because I think some people might be concerned that if you start to multi-stream to different channels, that it might be diluted somehow, the message. But of course, the other side of this is that actually you're going to reach more people, and that's what we talk about in the show. If you multi-stream to all these different channels, you can potentially reach more and more people. So how does multi-streaming come into this when it comes to building a marketing channel?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are three aspects that I see that I think are the key for this. Number one is just what you mentioned earlier. You will reach more eyeballs if you go to 15 platforms or 15 channels than if you go to one. It's just simple math. Whether you like it or not, this again, the physics of planet Earth, right? But our favorite, this is how things work. And remember that with tools like Restream, you don't necessarily have to go to 30 different platforms or destinations, so to say. You can go to a bunch of channels within the same 2, 3, 4 platforms that you care about the most, right? But it is not uncommon for people and marketers to have multiple Facebook pages and groups that they care about. It's not uncommon to have multiple YouTube channels or a couple of Twitter pages. So I think that it is very important to leverage that, and all those communities and those networks that you build around those pages and those spaces, those little ecosystems that you created, you definitely want to leverage and cater to all of them. That's where multi-streaming is very powerful. The second thing is going to be the fact that you are bringing content to the audience where the audience is. Instead of forcing them to come to one specific platform and say, hey, you know what? I'm streaming on YouTube, and I know you hang out on Facebook all day, or you consume most of your content on LinkedIn because that's the professional network where you spend most of your day. But I don't care about this. You're going to come to this YouTube channel and watch this link right now. And I'm actually going to post it on YouTube and on Facebook and on LinkedIn and land you where I want you to be. So this is a way to do it. That's one way to approach it. But I do believe that delivering content to the space where the person already is, and where your community and your audience is already interested in consuming it, is just much more considerate, I guess, and people would appreciate it. And especially with tools like Restream, it makes it very easy. You don't have to have 7 windows open with different chats. We aggregate all of that for you. The messages, like the video will be sent in exactly the same way to all of your platforms. You can include people in conversations, just like we were doing earlier today with Ian, right? Like you highlight a person and say, hey, Tiffany from Facebook says this, and then Richard from YouTube says that. And that was, all of those people feel like they're part of the same experience, yet they are having it with the familiar interface at the space where they are comfortable. And the last thing is more of a pure marketing, I guess, advantage that I was thinking about recently. Think about how much of your content that you stream live, that you create live, is watched after it is not live anymore, right? Like how many people watch the replay? Ian even has his own little hashtag replay in the comments for people who are watching later. And I bet that a lot of those numbers, a lot of those views are coming in later because people are interested in the topic. They want to listen to this conversation, but they don't have time right now. So they'll watch it later. Now, think about that those videos on demand that you created with this live stream, you can have one if you just stream to Facebook, or if you just stream this to YouTube. Or like in Ian's case, let me try to count it. I'm going to, there's no way. There's so many. I just looked at your platforms that you went to, and I was like, I'm just going to give you the exact number. I want to say 15 or something, but something
like that. Yeah.
Something like that, right? Like you have 15 videos on demand that are potentially searchable, either on the platform itself, or if it's something like YouTube, it's going to be searchable on Google even, that will, if the right keywords are set in your description and in your stream title, would be potentially searchable pieces of content. And there are 10 or 15 of them. And all the work that you did is that just prepared and built this one stream. So it is also very powerful. So you basically create this bunch of videos, you deliver the content to the place where the audience wants to consume it, and you inevitably get more eyeballs and more ears, right? Like more pairs of ears to hear the important message that you have. So this is the power of multi-streaming. This is why we love it.
Yeah. It is awesome. It saves so much time, and I mean, it is now so much more powerful because we can engage with all the different people across all the different platforms. That's why I love it so much. And it does save time because you can, I've now got content on LinkedIn Live, I've got content on YouTube, I've got content on Twitch, and I wouldn't normally broadcast to Twitch, but I've actually found that I'm getting quite a few comments on Twitch, which is great. So that's really awesome. We're out of time, but there are some fabulous comments I just wanted to bring in. So Tiffany says, thanks. I go live every day to 5 channels. I'd love to know more about what you do in your show. Let us know and where you go. Yeah, she says all at the same time. And Tiffany asks this question, which we get asked a lot, actually, which is a really good question. Will we be able to add Instagram? And the answer to that is hopefully that will happen. The problem is that at the moment, the Instagram API there is no Instagram Live API. The only way, and if you look at the terms and conditions, the only way is to broadcast from the smartphone. So yes, there are some tools out there that supposedly do it, but they break the rules. It's really important to follow the rules. Otherwise, you could cause problems, and we don't want that to happen. So at the moment, Instagram Live, no, you can't do that other than the phone. But hopefully in the future, what do you reckon, Anya?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that that's Instagram's policy. They only want you to go live directly from your phone, and there's no other way. So they don't invite any other third-party applications. It's not just a Restream case; it's anybody.
Yeah.
There are workarounds. There are several third-party applications and tools, including some that are compatible with Restream. Should you want to go that route, but remember that when you do that, it's a one-way street, so to say. So basically, even if you use something like Yellow Duck or some of those applications that allow you to push your live stream to Instagram, is going to send the video in, but it's not going to collect the comments to you because it's a one-way street. So if you really want to do it, I mean, I know people do that, and I have not heard of any issues with that. Like, so, you know, usually Instagram, I guess, is too busy to police this kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to remember that it's going to be quite a quirky way, and hopefully Instagram will change their policy. And when they do, they do, we'll definitely be the first ones to deliver that option for you, because I know everyone wants it.
Absolutely. So yeah, it just depends on how much a stickler you are to the rules. I'm a bit of a stickler to the rules, so I'm an old guy who anyway. So there we go. And Shin says, awesome new insights. And how do you project specific social comments within OBS? It's a bit more tricky within OBS. And that's why using Studio is a lot easier. You can just put the comments up on the screen. There are ways. I think there are some widgets and plugins and things like that. Is that something you know about, Anya?
I know that for OBS we have a chat application. So within Restream, you can either use a browser version or even a desktop version. Like, so you can download, out of all things, you can actually download the chat, right? Like, load the whole Restream thing. And if you do that through OBS, you just download the chat or open that web browser, and then you create one of those sources or scenes becomes your chat.
App. Yeah,
exactly. And then the whole community, like everyone, can see your chat on the screen as one of your scenes. You just put it somewhere in the corner or whatever you want. I saw a lot of gamers do that. They enjoy that a lot because they can see like how, you know, all the comments are coming in. But of course, if you want to highlight individual comments, Studio makes it a lot easier to just press on one and just put it on your screen with the name and the little icon from the platform where it's coming from.
That's a great question. I hope we've answered that. Devon says, great, well done. If I could speak, sorry. Well done, guys. Cheers. It's coming to the end of the show. There we go. And Tiffany also says, so broadcast to Twitch, Facebook personal, Facebook page, YouTube, and Periscope, 12 a.m. Wow. That's exciting stuff. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Anya, for coming on the show. I usually ask, where can people find out more about you? I suppose the best place is restream.io, but is there anywhere else you hang out?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can just find me by this first and last name on LinkedIn. I welcome any connections with people who are either content creators already, Restream users, anything else users. Please feel free to send me an invite, any questions, any comments, and again, any feedback about our product. I do influence our product team directly. Being part of the influencer team, I not only I work with influencers to influence others, but I also influence back in terms of Restream team. So if you have any product feedbacks, any ideas of how to improve and how to make it better to resolve your specific question or pain point, please let me know. I'm happy to get those from you. And of course, other than that, Restream support chat is 24/7. If you have any technical questions, any issues, any troubleshooting, any questions about onboarding, even like how to start, how to do this, if you get stuck, just click there, and we will usually support people respond in 5 minutes. It's a very powerful support team right now. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Check us out at restream.io/studio for the studio specifically. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. We have our channel where this is coming, and we have our shows happening every day. So I think except for Monday. Monday is the only day when we don't have shows, because we think that people are just pissed that the weekend is over and no one is just wanting to watch anything.
Maybe we need a day off. I don't know, but that's
exactly.
Fun. Well, thank you, Anya. I can see this is very exciting. This is a new thing. I haven't seen this in Restream. Congratulations, you reached 100 messages today with Restream chat. I've won an award. Do I actually get an award with that? Do I get a free cookie or something? I don't know. But that's exciting stuff. Wonderful. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much, Anya. I'll just take you off briefly. And just to say thank you so much for watching either the replay or watching live. Where every single week we do the show, and there are also other shows during the week, as Anya said. So do check out the Restream channels on YouTube and Facebook and all the rest of the places. And if you want to be notified when this next show is going to be, then all you need to do is go to confident.live/Restream, and my handy Facebook Messenger bot will help you out there. That's confident.live/Restream. But until next time, I encourage you to expand your reach and your audience through the power of multi-streaming. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go Live with Restream from Ian Anderson Gray, the show from Restream that helps you expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video. Visit iag.me/Restream for more. And until next time, toodaloo.